Cedarburg native who's currently living in Madison. Tom, you're staying overnight. We're putting him up at the local motel. It's 7:30, and you're going to talk for an hour and 15 minutes. You're going to take the microphone. He can talk till midnight. You're laughing.
No, I can't.
I had coffee with him last month. Speakers we get here, we put a lot of work finding these men, qualifying them. We appreciate your support. And what he has to share with us tonight, you're not going to get on local news or in a book. And by the way, he's got books for your
Wait, you won't get it in a book.
So, Tom Dietz, come on up here. We're going to take a seventh inning stretch about halfway through this so we can all take our break. But here's the microphone, and it's yours now. Take us back to Vietnam War.
All right, well,
Let's welcome him.
yeah, I'm a bulldog. I know you're. Any other bulldogs in the crowd? All right. Not many, just a few. All right, so actually I'm going to take you back a different direction to start with, and then we're going to come right to here, and then we're going to go to Vietnam. All in. He says I can talk for an hour. I'm usually asleep in an hour, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so let me take you back to my heritage, my family, my dad, my mother. They grew up in Pellston, Michigan, the coldest place in the lower 48. They argue with Colorado and some other places. Pellston, Michigan is right below the bridge. My mother was the class valedictorian. My dad was the class trout fisherman. How they got together, it's a mystery to all of us, but after they graduated, they moved to the Detroit area. My dad took a job with Cadillac on the assembly line, making, I don't know, $1 an hour, something to that effect. He got a draft notice while he was there on July 10th, 1943. I have an older sister. June 29th of that year she was born. So about a week after his baby was born, he got a notice to that Uncle Sam wanted him, that obviously we had a war that was going to be fought, and he was going to go fight it. He was an anti-tank gunner with the 2nd Division. Trained at Fort Dearborn, then to New Jersey. Then he said the worst experience of his life was taking a troop ship across the Atlantic. Everybody on the ship was sick, and if you weren't sick, you were going to get sick. Got to Wales, and it rained for 3 months. And what he learned to do was play craps, I guess, or something to that effect. That word fits in there somewhere. And he went ashore on D-Day, and he pushed forward, pushing the Germans back inch by inch, foot by foot, mile by mile. Anybody else, you know this experience, you've undoubtedly had speakers tell you about it. You know, what I did in Vietnam, I would not trade for that day. I would not say, if you tell me I'm going on D-Day, June 6th, versus the year I spent in Vietnam, I'll take the year, every time. I will take that year. So when somebody says that's the best generation, I think it's probably the bravest generation. They say it's the greatest generation. It's my father's generation. Without my dad getting back, I'm not here in front of you today. So you understand my dad got back. But listen to this, how he got back. He's an anti-tank gunner by day, and by dusk, he was a litter bearer. So they would take soldiers, German soldiers, on our American litters, run them down to the hedgerows where the Germans were at, and they'd trade bodies. They'd trade soldiers. There was a truce for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They didn't speak the language, but they would have German litters coming back with American soldiers. He's running back with his best friend, a guy named Tom Dorn. Remember that first name, Tom Dorn. They hear, and if you've ever been in the military, most of you have, you know what an artillery round sounds like. A single one coming overhead, hits a tree, takes my dad out, hits him in the top of the head, he ends up having to be rushed to London to have cranioplasty, which means they put a steel plate in his head. So, got that picture? That artillery shell killed the American soldier for the second time on the litter and killed my dad's best friend. His best friend's name was Tom Dorn, D-O-R-N. They had made a pact that if one of them gets killed, they will name their son, if they have one, after that person. So my name is Tom, after Tom Dorn. I've had a lot of names in life. Ron's called me most of them. Russ is working on a few. Where's Dave Dino? He knows some. So there are people that I actually served with, which is just it just floored me when Dave Dino was here. Just crazy good. It's a good thing. But you know what your names are in the military, right? You know how many names you pick up along the way. The one that's always been sacred is Tom, because that's not my name. That's the guy I'm named after. Okay? I've always known that to be a vital part of me. I would hear my dad and his friends talking. We lived in, by the way, somebody asked me, where in Cedarburg do you live? We lived in the cheap seats. After World War II, Cedarburg expanded a little bit right by the mink farm. Yeah, right. Mink farm was west of us. We lived in them little shacks, but way better than what we lived in Milwaukee. Way better. So, but I would hear them talk. I would hear the neighbor, Mr. Tomlin, talk about Marine. You're going to have a speaker. You know, that's the real deal. When you talk to a Marine, you're talking to the real person. You're talking to the real people that fight. You're talking to the people that don't know backwards. You're talking to the people that only go one way. So that's Mr. Tomlin. He went Iwo Jima, Wake Island, Guadalcanal, all the way across the Pacific. Big man survived. Big man saw numerous people die. He always carried that in his soul. He always prayed for those peoples, wherever they're going to be. And that's what I grew up with. I grew up with those stories of men of valor, men of bravery, men of, how did you do it? Don't you ask yourself that? How do you do that? How do you work as a police officer for 40 years? How do you do it? What put you forward? What's your motivation? How do you get that? Whatever it is. And the women who are left behind. Now, my mom was left behind in Michigan with a little one. No job. What does she do? She survives. How? How do you do it? Where do you pick up the pieces from? So, here's what happens. My dad goes to London, England. They put his brain back together, his skull. Take him on boat again across the Atlantic, he doesn't remember it. He has no clue how he got back. He wasn't seasick that time. He was immobilized. He was, as my mother got a letter saying, his condition, we're sorry to tell you, is poor. P-O-O-R. What she thinks is going to happen when he comes back? What's he going to be like? Who is he? Well, I recognize him. Well, he's partly paralyzed. He had to spend about 5 months at Walter Reed Hospital. And then when he got mobile enough, and what he remembers this, and I'm going to get you to Vietnam fairly soon, but I got time. And this is my dad we're talking about, so we're going to talk about him. You don't see it anymore, but at the old professional football games, you used to see veterans in wheelchairs, right? On the sideline. I mean, like they could catch a pass in wheelchairs. That was my dad. He said, Sammy Baugh, you take any quarterback you want. You take he'll take Sammy Baugh. Sammy Baugh did it all. He punted, he kicked, he passed, he ran. I mean, and my dad remembers that. That's about all he remembers from his rehab. Was being at a game with a blanket on him and then coming home. And then the next step was Great Lakes Naval Hospital. Why there? It was close to where he's going to go next. And all along the way, he said it wasn't for people, nurses, doctors, caretakers, who put their energy back into him, he wouldn't have made it. He would not have been able to fight through. Lots of people do that, helped him along the way. All right, so now he's out of Great Lakes Naval Base. My mom hated Waukegan, by the way. She didn't like Waukegan. So she goes back up north. She's back up in Petoskey, or Pellston area. Dad's home on leave. Voila, here I am. Somebody said it was a miracle. I'm not thinking it was, but I think it was a normal course of human events. But then he needed a VA hospital, and that VA hospital was in Milwaukee, because he just come from Great Lakes. So I spent most of my childhood up to about 6th grade in Milwaukee. Eventually I'll get you to Vietnam where I walk point. Well, I learned to walk point in Milwaukee. Because every block you had to know where the hell you were going, what was around the corner, who's your friend, who's your enemy. It's probably the same way now. That wasn't the way it is in Cedarburg. Cedarburg, they just wanted to beat you academically, knock your snot out of you on the football field, chase you down if you were too slow. There was a different type of competition, but in Milwaukee it was survival. So that's why I learned how to be careful. I learned how to be fast on my feet. I took boxing lessons at the boys club on Franklin Place to survive. The only problem was it was about 1.5 miles from our home, and it got all after dark, I'd have to run home. They might have taught me to box, but I was a better runner than boxer, I'll guarantee it. All right, so now we're in Milwaukee. It's a struggle, but my dad gets it together. He pulls it together. He's a machinist. Where's Mr. Dino? There he is. There's also a machinist right there. So he knows the skill that it takes to do that, fine precision work. So my dad got it together. We moved to Cedarburg. I like it, it's okay. Listen, no harm, no foul, I tell you, it's fine. So Cedarburg's different. Cedarburg's, academically, they're smart kids. All white, by the way. All white. You got to blend in. You got to figure out who you are. So that was the trend there. Is how did I come from this kind of tough background in Milwaukee, poor background? How do you fit into a society? How do you do it? Okay. First of all, it's another lesson I learned in Vietnam. You pay attention.
Yeah, keep that mic up close.
Yeah, you pay attention. You see what other people are doing. You listen to their advice. You don't try to be anybody you're not. So I get through 6th grade, 7th grade, high school, and I'm off to the University of Wisconsin. And I'm not alone. This guy's at the University of Wisconsin. 17 or 18 of my classmates are at the University of Wisconsin. And that will tell you that the standards weren't as high as they are now. Right, Ron?
You got it, man.
Okay. I could barely get in Cedarburg High School now. I'd have to work. I'd have to take extra credit. You know. All right. So what happens at the University of Wisconsin? There's a war going on in the background. You might have heard of it. It's called Vietnam. Everybody on campus heard of it, one way or the other. Everybody on campus, especially the boys, are threatened by it. So if you don't keep your grades up, you flunk out, you know where you're going? You know where you're going. You're at risk. You're at high risk. So how do you stay in school? Well, some people didn't. one of my dorm guys, and I have a yearbook over there, and I actually have 3 yearbooks: high school, college, Vietnam. I urge you to take a look. You will see in a few years a difference that the world can make on people. It's a tremendous difference. There's a guy named Tom Probelski. He's on the dorm floor right across from me. Tom from Green Bay. Tom didn't like school all that much, and school didn't like him all that much. So he enlisted in the United States Army. Lieutenant, went to OCS. 6 months after he got there, he's dead on the wall. We, who stayed, felt guilty. We felt, Tom didn't deserve this. This isn't what he signed up for. This isn't the war that's what happens. War is war, right? You guys all know. How many people have been to war? Raise your hand. I'm not talking about home war either. I'm talking about the real war. The war, yeah, you know, right?
Da Nang, 1966. Da Nang, 1966.
Thank you for your service. And thank you for being you. Thank you for getting back here. Thank you for taking care of business. Thank you for you being a nice guy. Did I get any of that wrong? No. I did I?
My sister's right here, she can verify with you.
Well, all right, raise your right hand. No, I didn't get that wrong, did I? Okay, so that's the whole process. So on the campus, it's split, almost down the middle, and then it goes a little bit more. There's more protest. There's more protest against the war. Now, I often heard that people said, well, they were against the soldier, or they were against the person that was going. At least in Madison, at least in Wisconsin, they tried to stop the buses going over. They didn't spit on anybody coming back that I ever saw. They didn't demean the veteran. I never saw it, and I was there. But I know they tried to stop it, and they tried to stop the war. Of course, they're students against the system, all right? So I get through. I'm going to be enrolled in law school. I'm doing okay, by the way. So I'm going to be in law school, take some moxie, take some whatever. But the President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who replaced, obviously, John Kennedy, who was killed and assassinated, he takes out deferments for graduate students in February 1968. So I'm left high and dry. So I'm commencing, and we're going to go over here to Mr. Schreiner. He's going to read this. There's 2 parts to the commencement at the university in June of 1968. There's the official commencement, the one put on by the Board of Regents, the governor, and all those people. And then there's the one put on by the students. And Ron will give you kind of a sample, a taste of how different they were and what the split was.
Thanks, Tom.
Got to put it right up.
So from the official commencement handbook, June 10th, 1968, students will be seated as soon as they arrive at their seats and the platform party is in position on the stage. All candidates will rise to the opening hymn and remain standing. When the governor steps forward to extend greetings and well wishes from the state, the band will play "On Wisconsin." You are invited to sing along.
All right, should we do that? On Wisconsin, okay. You know it.
The mic needs to be up very close to your chest.
Okay.
So on Wisconsin, that's the model here. On Wisconsin. You've only heard it 100,000 times. Right? Okay. So before Ron goes any further, let me tell you that about a third of the audience,
We can't hear you unless you have the microphone.
Take the mic. Too close.
Turn it back.
Keep it close.
keep it close.
There you go.
So at the singing of On Wisconsin, about a third of the student body who were graduating walked out.
Yeah. So, From a brochure.
Ron.
Sir, once again, it has to be up close, yeah.
Like that?
There you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, got it. From a brochure produced by the students and handed out as the graduating classes into Camp Randall. 1A, that's you, baby. You all know what 1A is, right? You're ready to go. Today we will graduate. Traditionally, it should be a happy day, a day of celebration as we have accomplished what we set out to do when we came here 4 years ago. Our parents are proud. Our professors are relieved that the class of turmoil and protest will leave, and a new class presenting fewer challenges will take our place. But this day of triumph brings us one day closer to the time when the young men of our class will be expected to submit their lives, all they have learned, all the hurdles they have overcome, to the war in Vietnam. A war that is wrong, unjust, and immoral.
I'll get you up there. Okay, so those are the two sides. There's a battle right there on campus. There's a battle in Wisconsin. There's a battle in across the United States. There's a silent majority, there's a non-silent majority going. There's a battle back and forth. And that's what 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, that's what we faced. That's what the young generation faced. To go or not to go. There were ways out of it. There was a system called the selective service system, and Nancy's going to read that. You probably know it. You probably run tuned to it. But it's good information to have at this point.
Thank you. Established in 1917, the Selective Service was the system of drafting men for war. Made up of about 4,000 local volunteers, forming boards, they notified prospective draftees of where and when to report for physical exams and testing, what their draft status was, and when to report for induction. Although there were 27 million eligible for the draft during the Vietnam era, 16 million were deferred by going to college, enlisting in the National Guard, or being disqualified by mental, physical, or social issues. Between 60,000 and 100,000 young men left the country. Of the 27 million young men aged 18 and a half through age 25 who were eligible for the draft, 2.7 million served in Vietnam.
How many of that 2.7 million are here with us tonight? Stand, please. So it wasn't a given that these guys, these gentlemen, these boys would go. There were choices. There were options. So I graduated. We stayed because my parents, the second time they'd ever come to see me in college, so I'm not leaving, I'm graduating. We went to lunch. I stayed because I was still taking a course, a law course, a legal writing course. They drove home. The question was, my mother to my father, is he going to go serve if he's drafted? My dad said, he'll go. Not willingly, not what I wanted to do with my life. I had another plan. But Uncle Sam had a bigger plan. So there's a gentleman here by the name of Dave Dino. Dave, will you stand, please? I'm going to run this mic back to Dave. Why am I doing this? Dave and I are in the same draft class. Say whatever you want at this point about going to Fort Campbell.
We're a half hour in.
I got
I
it.
drafted with Tom, with basic training together. And after basic training, I didn't see him till sometime in Vietnam. He borrowed a Jeep and he come and visit me one day. And we spent a day together, and that's the last I seen him till today.
Till today. I was floored. I mean, I still am floored. And Dave was, you could just tell. He's a real guy. He's a real person. He's a real soldier. He's a real man. He was a real basic trainee with me, man. All right, so we go basic trainee. Then we go AIT. And I'm AIT, and he went somewhere else, and I went to Fort Lewis, Washington. And my advanced individual training was in the snow, 27 inches. We bivouacked on the foot of Mount Rainier, and we didn't come out of our tents, out of our shelter house. Snow just collapsed them. The rumor started, even before we got on the trucks to get out of there, you guys aren't going anywhere but Germany or Korea. Westmoreland said it. He said you're not going anywhere. You can't go to jungle country having trained here. All right, so now we're getting back to the chow line. And there's people going, you know how soldiers go. Turned out that the orders were A to E had orders for the Republic of Vietnam. F to Z, Germany. How does that happen? All right, now I got another choice. You know, now what do? Now it's real. It's right there. Here's what I got to do. I'm in Seattle, I'm at SeaTac. I got to fly from SeaTac back home for a week and back, and then go to Vietnam in about 5 days. Flying standby. You think that's going to work? Not very well. So I take an extra 3 days because I know there's a grace period. But I do get on a plane, and I get on a plane without my dog tags. How does that work? Well, I left them on the bedpost overnight. So this is it. This is a soldier sending, the United States sending over to Vietnam. Okay. So I get there without dog tags, and I'm a little petrified about what this is going to mean. But it doesn't mean hardly anything. It means one more day through the process line. And as I'm going to processing in, there are people processing out after a year. And you notice a way different look. It's about a 5-year difference, maybe 10. The guys leaving look like they'd been there since birth. The guys coming in, knees shaking, attitude adjusted all the time. And you're going through lines, and you get your orders. And my orders are for the first admin company in Xi'an. Now we're in Vietnam, Ken.
Get the pointer. Get the pointer out.
It's right there. Right where the Ho Chi Minh comes through, right there is where I was stationed. Up here are the Marines. They're fighting the real deal with the NDA all the time. Here's the highlands. This is mostly lowlands. Ron was down here in the Delta, which is rice country. So there's 4 different areas, 4 different ways of approaching the war. First Division was the first division, Army division in Vietnam. And the rumor is about the day I got there, they were going to leave. Well, why bring me over here if we're going to leave? Does this make any sense to anybody? Okay, well, we'll get to that. Say that again.
Military logic.
Yeah. All right. So now you have to adjust. You have to adjust to, and you step off the plane, and the first thing, what's it like, Ron, stepping off the plane?
Hotter than hell. Hotter than hell.
And he means hell. He means the real hell, right? You just instantly fried. And you go down to the tarmac and you say, oh my God, I got a year of this somehow? How? Who's going to do this? But you adjust. You adjust. So I got to a unit that was at a place called Fort Seminole. So I was with the 4th platoon, which is a weapons platoon. So 1/2 were 11 Charlies, and they very seldom left the fort. And the other half were like about 12, 13 of us. We're 11 Bravos, and we always left the fort. So how does that work? Oh, wait a minute. Other people are going to Germany. Other people are staying here with the mourners, and I'm going out every day. And the first thing I was doing was carrying ammo. If you get over to that picture, you'll see the best soldier that ever, Army soldier, at least, Jose Castellanto. Jose cleaned that weapon 5 times a day, I swear to you. He carried his weight and everybody else's weight with him. Never saw it jam, never saw him flinch, never saw anything happen that he couldn't handle. I carried ammo for him. I couldn't handle the ammo. You know, it's heavy. So eventually, after just about 3 weeks, Terry comes up to me and says, Dietz, I think you might make a good point, man. And we'll never know unless we try. Sir, can we get a second opinion here? You know, but actually it fit me. It fit my personality. It fit my size. It fit my feet. It fit my brain. It fit my background. I'd rather be up front than in the back. I'd rather be looking at what's happening than experiencing it without knowing what's happening. So what does a point man do? Well, first of all, he's got to be observant. He's got to be alert. My feet went first. How many people behind me? 12, 20, 30 sometimes? If I did something stupid, their lives were on my shoulders, and that's a lot heavier than ammo. So the point man makes decisions. You think it's the colonels? You think it's the generals? You think it's the lieutenants? It's the guy walking point makes the first decision. So you may see Vietnam through lots of lenses. You may have seen it on TV. You might have seen it in movies. You might have seen it in somebody else's history. You've heard it. This is what Vietnam looked like to me, a topographical map. Every day I went over this map with somebody, with usually a sergeant, and we said, well, here's our orders. We got to go there, there, and there. But there's no way to get there, there, and there, off this map at least. So we had to make it up as we went. Now the problem with that is the Army wants to know where you're at all times. They don't give you a lot of leeway. So we got to follow the map. You got to follow the jungle. You got to follow the danger zones. You got to know what you're doing in some levels. And always you know this. I trip a booby trap. Somebody dies. I might die. That'd be okay. Somebody else dies. That's not okay. That's not okay. I have a guy right behind me. His name is, he visited us in Madison. His name was Dan McDivitt. He actually had to volunteer to walk second to me. You know, the lieutenant said, who wants to do this? Who wants to walk second? He said, I'll do it. So Danny and I were about this close. He's the guy that told me, watch it. He's the guy that pounded me on the back of the steel pot and said, like Ken's doing over here, saying, speed it up, will you? So sometimes in Vietnam it's the pace. Sometimes it's the way you go. Sometimes it's who will follow you and how far behind. If I had a married man behind me, I'd say, double the space. I don't want to take away anybody's father. And you never knew. You never knew when your last step was coming. You never knew. And they did. Now, I did not actually ever trip a booby trap, found 6, 7, or 8 of them. But I got hit by a booby trap. And I will tell you, that second, that when somebody, and it was probably the guy who was walking, we just switched over, so it's too hot for somebody to walk point all the time. Just can't do it. You can't stay that sharp. You can't get that much salt tablets in you. You don't have that much water. And you don't want all that responsibility. So we would switch off. I would do mornings, this guy would after lunch, and then I would take it back. So there was like a 3-part system. And we had just had lunch. We're out in, we just came out of the, I took us out of the densest jungle. We just found some rice fields and rice paddies to walk on. And he was a go-getter. You want to move. I was a little slower of foot right then, and I had to throw my rucksack on, and I was turned, and he was about here to that gentleman right there from me. And all he did was this. He looked over his shoulder, and he yelled, "Booby!" I said, "What the? Booby? What's he, how do you react to that?" Well, I knew how to react. So I didn't have my rucksack quite on, and I held back, and the blast went right here. One hit me right above the eye. I thought I was going to lose this eye. Didn't. One hit me right here. But the bigger problem, and about 20 rounds hit me on this side, legs up. And it was just shrapnel. So it wasn't like it was bullets, it was shrapnel. But it penetrates, you bleed a little. The very worst thing I did was bite my tongue. That hurt more than all of it combined. But that tells you how afraid I was. Because I could not give you $100 for you to bite your tongue, you wouldn't do it. That just tells you. No, I had that split second. So I go back, and I'm laying there saying, I know I'm hit, but how badly am I hit? And then we're taking incoming fire. It's coming from this hillside over here. Now it's not at me because they're shooting at the other guys on this other, we're split. We're split on a dike here, a rice paddy dike. And they're shooting at those guys. But the medic runs across the rice paddy to get to me, to make sure I'm okay. The guy that tripped the booby trap, this guy is clever enough, he's smart enough, he saw that they had bamboo rods sticking up in the rice paddy. He leaped over them. Everybody thought he had just gotten killed. He just stood up and brushed himself off and ducked because they're shooting at him. We can't get out of there, so I don't get dusted off. And it's not the little bit of blood, it's not the little bit of fear, it's the what just almost happened. Oh my gracious. My heart's, when I even talk about it, my heart goes up here somewhere. My heart revs. And we got to walk out of here now. And we're in the kind of a valley, and they're up on that hillside. And we don't know. We don't know if we're going to get out of here. So we're going to, here's a word, a term we use, dee-dee-bop. You think it means like we're going to dance? It means we're on high security, we're on high alert, everybody's looking, everybody's going. And we're moving. And we're moving. Because we don't want to take any more fire. And we're going in threes. Covering. Threes. Covering. Three. We get 2 more guys wounded. So now we got a mess. How do we get out of this? We got me wounded a little bit. We got 2 other guys wounded. We got more fire coming in. And it's one time the helicopters couldn't get to us. It's one time we're on our own. It's one time when you say to yourself, this might be my last time. This might be all these guys' last time. But we make it. We make it. Mostly because of that machine gunner I told you about. He laid a barrage of fire up on that hillside, that just killed trees. He just covered us, in other words. Like you'd see an old Western. So I'm bleeding a little bit. I'm bleeding on the inside quite a bit, wondering what's going to go on. I get dusted off the next day. 2 other guys get dusted off when we can get out. About 4 days later, I'm going right back at it. Am I the same person? Are any of us the same after that experience? We're doing the same job. We got to pull it together. We got to find it. If we lost it, we got to find it. How do we find it? We have certain men in our unit that never lose it. that are always capable of pulling it together. They're called leaders. You know, I led with my feet. They led with their hearts and souls. And you know who they are. Some of them are in this room. Some of them are ladies in this room. You know who you are. And that's how you make it through war. It's not me getting through war, it's us. It's us. It's Danny Mac. It's Tommy Mac. It's Sergeant August Emanuel. You want to meet these people. Some of them aren't alive, but you want to meet them. They will get you where you want to go and where you need to go. They got more moxie than I ever thought about. There's a picture over there of John T. Mack, the blackest guy in America. This is also the kind of guy you do not mess with. John T. Nicest guy you've ever met. John T. just was the law. All right, you know this guy, right? I showed that picture to a 6th grade class when I came home. Half of African American kids, few Spanish, the rest white, and the black kids said, "Now that's a black man." And they meant a powerful black man. That's the guy you want on your side. I'm telling you, every time you go anywhere, you want him. And those are the people you gravitate and you find the Army finds. It also doesn't find people that can't make it, and you don't disrespect that. You know, you know they're there. You know they're amongst us. You know that can't happen. We're not all built the same, and not on every given day are we all good. Have you ever had a bad day? Have you ever had a good day? All right. Do they even out? Do they even out? Yeah, there you go. I got a little shake here. So in a place like Vietnam, you can't afford to have too many bad days. You can't. You got to rotate it around a little bit. 2 of us can have a bad day, the other 12 of us can't. That kind of thing. And you know who's having a bad day, and so you go to that person. And you say, "Would you like my peaches today?" Because that was the thing. Peaches. Canned peaches. With the juice. You know, so I'll trade you my canned peaches for your apricots. Oh, that's, you know, no, it's 1 peach for 3 apricots. You know, it's crazy. All right, now, so this is what we're doing on a daily basis. We're going out there and we're looking for the enemy. That's a Viet Cong flag that I personally took out of a bunker. And anybody know what all that stands for? What that means?
Communist.
The top is communist, right there. Yes, the red. What's the blue? The blue is the South. It means the communists are going to dominate the South. That's what the Viet Cong flags. So Viet Cong, Viet, you know, Cong is communist. This gentleman's smart. The prongs on the flag. That's for entrepreneurs. It's for factory workers or workers. It's for farmers. It's for intellectuals. And it's for soldiers. Do you see them say anything about government? No. That's not what they represent their society as. They're represented as people. And that flag, you know, was all over the South. About half the villages we went into were Viet Cong villages. They controlled them. We didn't. We went very carefully into those villages. Got out as fast as we could. The friendly villages were also controlled by the Viet Cong, for the most part. Strangely enough, because they operated at night and we operated in those villages at day. We had pacification teams. So did the Marines, by the way. Marines went into villages and stayed in villages just to make sure they were safe. We had 2 villages by us where I was at, and some of them are in those pictures. 2 villages that we adopted and they adopted us. We could walk through them pretty safely. Because we were their economy. Who's going to mess with your economy? You can't kill these soldiers because who's going to bring the money in? We were their, by untold amount that we gave them versus what we got back. So that's the other thing about Vietnam. We are their economy. We built their roads, their infrastructure. It's such a crazy war that's going on. Ron's building bridges, roads. We're doing all that, and on the other hand, we're in jungles with panthers and booby traps and claim our mines. So it's hard to wrap your mind, as you hear the phrase, hard to wrap your mind around what are we doing? We're on pacification during the day and ambush at night. Which are we? What's our role? And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to tell you everybody that's done this. You put another human being in your sights. You put another human being, I don't care, you can slur them all you want. Once you pull the trigger and the body's down, it's a body, not a person. You know you've done that. You know there's a price to pay. It's not like shooting a rabbit. Right, Ron? So that's the cost. You want to know what I think PTSD is? What the cost of the war is? I think the cost of the war is knowing you have an enemy that wants you dead. And knowing you have an enemy you want dead. That's a real long road back from there. I don't mind getting shot once or twice. I don't mind getting a Purple Heart. That's nothing. But knowing you've just killed 5 of them, 2 girls. You say, wow, how do we do this? And they've just killed 5 of us. We know what we do. We put out field crosses. Anybody else ever done that? Put a M16 with a bayonet in the ground, steel pot on top of it, their boots below it. If you have their dog tags, that, but you generally don't have their dog tags. And then you hold a ceremony. And you say the Lord's Prayer and 1,000 other prayers in your mind, and you consecrate the ground with tears. If you don't cry, well, I never saw anybody not cry. I saw them not come because they didn't want to cry. And then, if you had it, you played taps. If I played taps right now, what would happen? You know what it means? Okay. So all that builds, and then the country's coming apart, and things are happening over, and girlfriends are breaking up with them, and by letter, and they're crushed. It's not the FEC or it's their girlfriend that crushes them. Because she's got to have a life too. That's what I tell guys. She's got to have a life. You can't just expect her to. Well, we did. We expected, that somewhere we would come home. And there's always this rumor that we came home to a mad America. America didn't like us. Well, most of the guys that I know had a hard time came home to girlfriends that were in somebody else's arms. That's what crushed them. Had a good guy, he's on a picture over there, his name is Larry Kupik. Called him Fox. He taught me how to walk point. Only he walked twice as fast as I did. No, we're not going that fast. He's from Oklahoma. He gets a letter from his mother. His mother says, and I'll give it to you the vernacular. Mother says, your younger brother and your wife are shacking up. They've fallen for each other. What should I tell him? Tell him I better get killed over here. Because when I come home, it's going to be hell to pay. So that's going on. What's going on in your families is part of your life over there. You get letters. Now, you got, I mean, if you're in Iraq or Iran or someplace or Afghanistan, you had kind of instant messages, right? You know, did you or not?
Not my first tour.
Okay. Second tour maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more instantaneous. So we would wait 10 days to find out anything, or 2 weeks. It was all delayed. It was all, wait a minute, it was all, wait, what's the name of that book? Wait 1. So in some ways, it's wait 1 year to get your life back. And as I told Congress in 1976, it's really wait 1 lifetime. Most veterans who've ever been anywhere and done anything, they know it doesn't go away. You can label it anything you want. You can call it PTSD, you can call it Vietnam syndrome, you can call it Afghanistan, hill country terrorism. I don't know, what do you call it? Got to have a name for it, right? It's America, we label everything. It really means I'm not paying attention to anybody except what's inside of me. It's real hard to just not have what's inside of me be what's important. And that's other people's lives that are lost. It's other people's lives, the brotherhood. It's the wall. It's the names on the wall. It's the names they represent of their kids, their families. So let me tell you, I'm going to back up real quickly. Ken, am I okay yet?
Let's take a 7th inning stretch. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm here. So I'm going to tell you real quickly in pieces.
Hold our conversations, please.
I can talk over you, I think. But had a staff sergeant by the name of Tom Davies from Lake Mills in Wisconsin. All right. Tom would tell us, take a Brubaker, Dave Brubeck, take 5. He was loved music, played an acoustic guitar. So I know when he said take 2, I would have said take 5. And that was in honor of Tom Davies. Platoon sergeant who came over from the 2nd platoon to the 4th platoon because we screwed up. And so the two staff sergeants we had got in trouble. But it was my decision that got them in trouble. I'm walking point, as was her husband, first husband, okay. It's at night, and if you look over there on the pictures, there's a pottery factory. So that's the little ville that we took care of. We had pacification by day, walked through it at night. We're supposed to cross the Dong Nai River on a bridge that I don't think Ron built it, but it was more rails and girders down. It was like, this is tough stuff. You couldn't do this in daylight. It's raining. And anybody been around the monsoon? How do you like that? Yeah. You're wet constantly. I mean constantly. So we're going to cross this girder bridge at night. I say to actually Sergeant Emmanuel at that point, I said, let me see if I can do it. And I said, I'm about middle of the physical ability here. If I can do it, they can do it. If I can't do it, I'll tell you. And a guy named Ron Saylor, who thought he could do anything. Ron was not born with a fear gene. The only guy I ever saw. He he just, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll try that, okay, let me, but he wouldn't walk point. So he wouldn't do everything. But he's right behind me, and we're in this girder, and we're carrying our gear, because if you got to carry your gear across, and I'm on, it's like this. And he trips and hits the back of my leg. And the water is rushing. I said, oh my God, I hope I can swim. All right, okay, so I hang on to the girder and landed, you know where. Any man in here, you know where you landed, right? And I get back to shore, and I say, we ain't going, no. You know. And they said, well, now we got trouble. We're supposed to be over on that side. I said, well, we're not, what do you want to do? People are going to drown. We're going to die. For what? Because we got orders. Somebody put a dot right there. Say, that's where you're going to be tonight. Well, I'll tell you what, calmer heads prevailed. Sore, you know what's prevailed. We went back to the pottery factory. We drank beer. What we did count on is we had a snitch. So a guy turned us in, saying that we didn't do the coordinates. And then the colonel comes. Now, I was in Vietnam about 400 days. I saw a colonel twice. Once at the Bob Hope show, you know. What the hell do they do? Lots of. Well, we put a point on the map, and yeah. Anyway, they were all glad-handers as far as I could figure. So the colonel reams them, and they walk out. And I say, what's up? I said, well, we're going to be fined. Our rank's frozen. They said, well, that's good. You're not lifers anyway. You're not going anywhere. I mean, you don't have to go up. Are you going down, though? That's the question. I said, well, that's it. So I asked permission to talk to the colonel. And the captain says, get the hell out of here, you know. Get! And the colonel says, who's that? And I say, I'm the point man. I made the decision, not those two guys. Colonel says, I want to talk to you. Captain, go get some coffee. So it was probably the only man to colonel, or colonel to man talk that went on in the Army. I don't know. I don't think there was any. I don't even see TV shows of this happening. And Colonel said, you, tell me what happened. Tell me why you did what you did. I said, sir, I'd rather be here getting reamed than reporting to you we lost 2 men in the river. I'd rather this happen than 2 field crosses. He said, you're telling me it was that bad. I'm telling you, we wouldn't have made it. We would have lost men. I sold it. And it was true. I'd always rather have some crap come down than a death come down. Right? I mean, you know this. Okay. But to have a colonel to listen to you? That's incredible. It's incredible that he would do that. So I gave him a lot of credit. I gave him credit that he would actually listen to a peon. You know, at that time I was a Spec 4, and I eventually made sergeant, which is, you know, and now you're a sergeant, do you walk point? Well, they don't want you to because you're a little bit more of a leader. You're more responsible for everybody and everything that's happening. You probably have a radio telephone operator with you. You gotta know where you're at on that map. You're the one that decides where you're going to set up the ambush. You're the one that everybody's gonna, excuse the French, piss and moan about? You know what I mean? Okay. So, in my life, it was not a good thing to move up in rank. It was better to have somebody else right above me saying, okay, we're in this together kind of thing. You know, I didn't like it. I didn't like being the guy. I didn't like and I had it for quite a while. So, you know, when you got a lieutenant and other officers in this crowd, yeah, okay, you know what rank's about. You know what you're...
I was a warrant.
Yeah!
I didn't have to worry about that stuff.
Welcome to... So, all right, do you have any specific questions you want to ask me at this point?
Wait, Paul, you get the mic? Announcement.
Anything you want to talk about?
All right, well, for the question and answer question, do we have any questions? Raise your hand. Come on, never had no questions. Gotta be somebody.
Where's your unit? Who are you with?
Charlie Company, 2nd to 18th Infantry, 1st Division, suck!
Agent Orange, what can you tell us about that?
Well, that's a very interesting question because there's a lot of toxicity in Vietnam. Pesticides, so when you're there, and they clear a base, they use road plows, big plows, and they use spraying, pesticides. We absolutely thought it was okay, because nobody told us it was poison. Nobody told us that we couldn't wash your hands. Nobody told us that, you know, it's sort of like COVID kind of thing. You never know. Okay, so now all of a sudden, it turns out it's as deadly as a bullet. Mr. Schreiner, tell him.
Wait, one moment.
Go ahead, tell him, Ron.
Stand up where we can see you.
So I was diagnosed with lung cancer from Agent Orange. All this time I spent in Vietnam, nobody ever told me. I used to look in the jungles when we were in the jungles, wondering why this vegetation was dying. I had no clue. Well, I know now.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Over here, Tom. Take us now from when you left Vietnam, coming back to Wisconsin. We want to hear more about your work with the VA and Veterans House. And finally, in this lengthy question, you're talking to senators and congressmen. So we've got about 10 minutes, and then we're going to have more question and answer, and then you will have your final say. But address those things, leaving and coming back home, and those other experiences.
All right. So how do I get home? Okay, so I come home with the colors of the 1st Infantry Division. The division is the 1st Infantry. The 9th Division took 2 brigades out in April. So then they're pulling back, and the Viet Cong and the NVA, they know it. They know we're leaving, and they know we're going to leave behind the Arvins to fight for themselves. So they're going to fight us or the Arvins. They're waiting. They're waiting us out. They know we're leaving. As we're leaving, we're building up all the fortresses we can. We're putting everything together we can so the Arvins have a chance. Because they're now going to protect Saigon, which is basically what we did. The objective always is Saigon. They're going to take Saigon and make it Ho Chi Minh City. That's their point. We were the protectors. The Arvins took over. The 1st Division's pulling out April. We're going to Fort Riley, Kansas. So we have, strangely enough, we have a color guard of about 300 soldiers, including me, that goes to Oakland for a parade, and then Fort Riley to take the colors. I ask you now, where's the division? Where's the 12,000 men? They didn't leave. They transferred. They went to the 5th Mech on the TMZ. They went to the AmeriCal 1st Division didn't leave. Those people that thought they were going to go home didn't go. They had to have 10 and a half months in to go. I thought, what a crock. Where's that colonel? I want to talk to him. Where's that president? I want to talk to him. So that's how I come home. I come home with the colors. And it's an interesting phenomenon. Because we couldn't wait for the parades and the speeches to end. We wanted to get home. We wanted to see you. We didn't want to see them. They hadn't done anything for us. They hadn't sent care packages. They hadn't sent letters. They didn't make us feel like we were something alive and special. They made us feel like we were color guard. So I went from Oakland, California, I went to Fort Riley, Kansas. Flattest place on earth, by the way. Who else has been in Fort Riley? Anybody else? My line is fairly, except for Custer Hill.
You got the right, just about right.
Yeah, yeah. You can see Oklahoma from Kansas. All right.
More of a comment. We did the same thing as you did. We gathered up all our stuff and we had it bombed
Wait 1 second.
to ruin it so that they couldn't use it. We, you put all your equipment there and you blew it all up. I'm going to ask everybody here, whatever made you think that they wanted our equipment? They didn't want our equipment, they wanted the property. And that's what they got. We bombed it for nothing. That's my comment.
Thank you. All right, so let me get you Fort Riley. I have to go back there. I have 150 some days to serve. I'm now the platoon sergeant. Every morning, and the captain had like an MP helmet that shined in the dark. You know that one? It's very silvery. Sergeant! Yes, sir. Report! All present and accounted for, sir. What are they then, sir, Sergeant? Well, I have three there, and do I report the guy I let go to Miami? You see, because I was no more sergeant material at that point than I was man on the moon, you know. So, it was crazy. And the 1st Division was now getting ready. What was there at Fort Riley? There was actually people there. They were going to go to Germany now. Now they're going to Germany. On something called Reforger 2. They'd done one before. So when I was in the Army, about a third of the men were and women were in Vietnam. Another third were over in Europe, and another third was scattered around the United States. And that's all moving. It's moving all the time. You know, so I wanted to be stationary. I didn't want to go to Germany. I didn't want to. So what did I do is I asked for a transfer out of the infantry. I got it. With pleasure, they said. They put me in the Special Processing Detachment where I interviewed people who violated military justice. I was their first contact. What did you just do? You know, tell me in your own words, what happened here? Well, and then you know the rest of the story. I don't even have to fill it in. I did not report. I did not do what they told me. I did not. And some of them were women. And so, what's going on? And they'd say stuff like, my sergeant's after me. He won't leave me alone. What do I do? How do I get out of this hellhole? And that's not the way it is all across, but this is the Special Processing Detachment. Okay. So I have interviewed people that are having a very hard time in the military and would like to get out. but the only way out is less than honorable discharge, probably. Maybe a general, that carries benefits, but generally it's an administrative discharge. I was at the heart of that process, in making recommendations. It was actually harder than trying to cross a bridge at night, because you got young people's lives. What do I say to them? How do we salvage this? How do I stop this person bleeding internally? How do I help them not throw their life away? Because you know, if you mess up in the military, you don't get any GI Bills, you ain't got a lot of options. And your employer says, can I see your discharge? Are you in the military? Well, I have a bad discharge. Oh yeah, I'll hire you.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So that's a process. Came back to Madison, got out, came back to Madison, lived with this guy, right here, right there. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the best roommate you ever saw. He is. And he can flat out catch walleyes. That's what makes him the best roommate you ever saw.
Jigging.
He can. He's just good. He's Dr. Walleye.
Dr. Wallace.
All right. So I hooked up. I went to law school for a while and then like that. That was like crossing a bridge I didn't want to do. Why? I didn't want to fight battles. Lawyers fight battles all the time. It's a high-stress job. It's a high-paying job. I gave up millions to not do that. But my soul is good. I helped form up a group called Vet's House, which is nonprofit, pass the hat. Will the lights go on today? Not sure. Who's going to cut the grass? Get some goats. You know, that kind of place. But we took on people at their level. We never judged them. That wasn't our mission. Our mission was to help them process what they've been through, and help them see a future. And you know, I mean, you all have kids in here. You've all gone through this. You all know the future is something mystical. It's practical, but it's mystical. I want to be. Well, in basic training, they tell you want to be an airborne ranger. No! I don't want to be an airborne ranger. I want to live a life of danger. I want to go to Vietnam. You know. Well, our model wasn't that. Our model was, get your life back, let's do it. And here's how we did it. We did it through music. We did it through running. We did it through exercise. We did it through caring. We did it through everything that the VA wouldn't do at that time. And then the VA came around. Because Vietnam veterans weren't coming in. And they said, well, how do you guys do it? We listen. We don't tell them what their life's about. We listen to where their life is. We ask their wives or their husbands, depending on, or their kids, to come in. They need feedback. Well, he's a schmuck. Well, that's okay. Let's take that in another direction. What would he take to not be that? To not have that be your action, reaction? What does he need to do? Give him some feedback. So marital counseling is very tough because you got two stubborn people, two hurt people. Prison counseling is even harder. You've got people on there for the rest of their life. What piece of popcorn kernel can you give them to hang on to? Well, we'd play softball inside the walls of Walt Pond. And they would hit the hell out of it. And they'd enjoy every minute of beating the counselors, you know. So we'd give them a victory. We'd give them something to look forward to. We'd find a way. I was part of the assessment and evaluation team, always talking to veterans. I talked to them before they talked to anybody on the ward. How are we going to get you out of here? Because this is not good. Waupun is not good. How are we going to get you to Fox Lake where we have groups of people like you? How are we going to get you to Oak Hill? How are we going to get you on the street? So Vets House, we formed a halfway house. We couldn't make it just for veterans, but we tried. And we'd give them that halfway feeling that they're a human being again.
Tom, question. Washington DC, what were the circumstances of you going there and talking to senators and congressmen? Think of that, and we're going to ask you to leave your final comments.
Okay.
So get your thoughts together. We're coming near to the end. Two quick announcements. Paul Radke's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does and what our new procedures are again.
As many of you know, I'm the one who sends out all the emails that most of you get. Obviously, with the catering situation that we have now, we have to have an exact number. You know, Amy kind of fudged it back and forth and had enough food, but now we need an exact number. So please make sure you respond to either the email or to Ken. If you look at your placemat, there's a phone number and an email address. If you don't get an invite, that's a way you can respond to us. So even if 2 weeks from now you send us an email and say, hey, I'm going to be there with food for dinner, let us know. Especially for those regulars, we get a lot of regulars that sometimes might forget to sign up. But just try to make sure you do that because the count is going to be accurate. I take that back, it's not on the placemat, it's on the, I will put it on next week or next month for you. So, if not, if you don't know, stop by, ask Ken. Ken will tell you, there's a document here, you can take a picture with your phone so you have his phone number and my email address, but it is critical that we get everybody's to sign up if they're going to come to our council. Thank you.
Also, now a couple of quick announcements. Books are for sale before you leave. You can linger around. Part 2. Special request from our bartenders. When the program is done, don't all run back there. They need a little bit of time to clean up things, get the old glasses off there. So give them a little while to do their housekeeping. That would be a big help internally for the volunteers for the American Legion, who do so very much for us. Now, we'll see you back here the 16th of October. Now, about going to Washington, and then you've got a room with over 100 people here. What would be your final comments, Tom, as we close out the evening?
Okay. So I am a speaker. You've probably figured that out. At least I tried. So it started out by going to the state of Wisconsin and going to the Joint Financing Committee and saying that Vets House needs some money. If we're going to do this job competently, you got to help us. You got to give us at least transportation money. We got to keep the lights on. We need your help. And by golly, they came through. State of Wisconsin, Red Cross, numerous other organizations, United Way, donated money to Vets House. Okay. So now there's about 10 or 12 of Vets Houses around the country. Most of them like in San Francisco and places like that. And we all got together and said, hey, look, this is what has to happen. There's veterans everywhere coming back from Vietnam, and they're still coming back. What do? We go to the federal government. Who do we talk to? We talk to the Veterans Committee. Who's on there? Strom Thurmond from South Carolina, Ellen Cranston from California. So we got an in to Ellen Cranston from California. So they say, who's going to go speak for us? Who's going to be the voice? Who's going to promote what needs to happen? Me.
You're the point man.
The point man. You got it. Oh, I've been waiting all night. All right, so I'm the point man. I'm pointing to Washington, D.C. I'm going to make this as quick as I can. I'm staying in a Quaker house. We don't have any money to put me up anywhere, so it's like it's a free cot over there. You can sleep there, and there's a Vietnamese restaurant right down below. And what do I smell? So I go in to talk to the Veterans Committee, and they didn't give me an hour and 15 minutes. I guarantee it. Hey, can you get to the point? Right away. So it's not Alan Cranston. He's not there. He's doing something else. It's Strom Thurmond. Well, son, could you get to the point? What's the problem with your veteran? And, you know, I swear to God, he's 90 years old or 88 or something, and he just fathered a child, and so I'm giving him all kinds of, I'm giving him all kinds of okay. And here's what I say, and this is, I'll wrap it up in the same thing. This is exactly what I would say to you. This is my wrap-up statement. I said, Senator, you know, I know, my father knows, no war ends on the date you're discharged. These guys, these women who served over in Vietnam and other battle areas coming up, because they're coming, are going to need support. They're going to need disability payments. They're going to need caring at the hospitals. They're going to need an open door policy where, yes, we believe you. And that's going to go on until they're standing on the stage in front of you at 77. It doesn't end after 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It ends when the soldier ends. It doesn't end before that. It doesn't. So is the government in this with us? They sent us there. Are you there? And I said to him this, and I'll say this to you. And he looked at me like, did you talk like this in Vietnam? Yes. In times I did. I said this. Life isn't a given, especially for a soldier. It's a gift. And it'll pay you back 1,000 times over if you understand the gift. The gift. It's not a given. So whatever life you've got left, and look, I see some gray hair.
No.
Use it wisely. If you're not walking point, find somebody that will. You know, it's a gift. What you got left, don't waste it with 1 minute of anger at somebody that doesn't deserve it. Don't waste it. And I'm gonna make one final. Okay. I went in with Dave Dino, right there. We had 5 guys from the state of Wisconsin. We're with a New Hampshire unit. Is this right, Dave? Yeah. We were the National Guard, for God's sake. You know, they put us, 5 of us. Okay, what happened to the 5 of us? Dave's right there. I'm right here. Gary Rogan from Grafton's still alive. There's a guy named David Foley Ackerman. Lock that in. David was from the University of Eau Claire. He was a graduate. He just happened to be engaged to a girl I knew from Cedarburg High School who went to Eau Claire. On Sunday nights, the only time you got to call anybody, I would talk to her when he would hand me the phone. How you doing? Oh, great. How's your sisters? Oh, man, it was just a privilege. Dave went back and forth with me, and you know Dave Ackerman, by the way, went back and forth with me. Should I go RA? Should I take an extra year? What do you think? I said, I can't make that decision for you, David. You and Janice make it. You make it. Well, he stayed the course I'm on. He's on the wall. He's on the wall. The baby Janice had never met him. She's met me. So the war will have to end with her when she dies, because she's carrying it. Think about that. All right, let's go.
Thank you, Tom, for being here with us. And,
Thank you.